Don't worry, NBA pool, I did not forget about you. You know I get all madnessy during the last month and a half, and many of you did too. We actually had a really good result here for the five of us in this pool. Three out of the five got paid. I was not one of them, so I'm not saying good for me, but good for all of you. It was well done. On to the NBA though, and tons was going on. I definitely kind of wanted to do one like last week or 2 weeks ago. It was a crazy end of the stretch. I think probably one of the better finishes of the year, especially considering we already knew what the playoff teams were going to be as of like 2 weeks ago, except for maybe one exception. But figuring out the seeding and getting all this stuff going on was awesome. Tons happened in our pool because obviously with it finishing, we now know our season leaders. We now know which teams are completely out. And I've recorded this in the very small window between when the eighth seed was actually decided. So all the playing games are done. 1 through 8 we know in both the East and the West. It is updated on the spreadsheet. I'll take you through that in a second. But I did want to preview our matchup. So let's see if I can thread the needle. Playoff matches were just decided a few hours ago. Let's see if I can get this out before we actually have tip-off on game one. Not sure if I'll be able to do it, but I'm definitely going to try my best. So lots to talk about. Let's get after it. Before I just get to the actual divisions and playoff matchups, I'm going to go East and then West. But a couple just overriding things I wanted to mention before we get just matchup by matchup. This is stuff that's more league-based. Really smart idea, I think, this year to have the NBA have all of the games play or all the teams play on Friday, take the day off, and then Sunday. So everyone gets the rest. People can't complain about that in terms of load management. So you get a better idea that people probably are going to play both games if they need to. It also kind of worked out this year that a lot of the matchups, like I'm going to talk about when I get to the matchups, ended up almost being like scripted. They're so good in terms of the probably the ones we really wanted overall. But that was not the case heading into it. While we knew the playoff teams and 1 through 10 were pretty much decided within a week to go, with maybe if you really thought the Houston could do something crazy or Golden State was going to fall off. But pretty much no, that was done. But the rankings were flying all over the map, and especially in the East. I mean, from 2 to 7 pretty much was decided in the last two games. So lots to do there. Tanking became an issue or a conversation. Obviously, the big thing we're going to talk about in almost every series, injuries. You're going to have key players that are coming back, maybe shouldn't have. So tons to talk about in each individual matchup. The only one I will probably mention is now we know that the teams fell off, and the most interesting in the East and the West, because all the tanking teams, I'll get to them probably on a year-end wrap-up. I'm not going to talk about each of the teams that didn't make the playoffs. Obviously, when I get to our league pool, we'll talk about the teams who finished dead last, and I'll try and mention a few along the way there. But in the East, the most interesting one to me is actually the Bulls, who didn't quite make it. They lost in the, I guess, battle for 8, so they technically finished 9, which I know does actually matter when we get to lottery draft and stuff like that. But Bulls have been a top 5 attendance for like ever, and they still have never really been great. Kind of an odd franchise. On the flip side, we are pretty much now can put a nail into the final coffin of the Warriors dynasty. I know Curry apparently said to Draymond, we're going to run it back next year. This isn't done or something like that. It's done unless they completely change the name and the face. Klay Thompson, that is just probably the worst outing you're going to see from someone who's going to ask for a ridiculous contract. But those were the kind of two ones that stuck out, but I'm going to push them aside. We'll get to some stuff when we go to their teams in our pool, but let's do some divisional matchups, and let's start with the East. Top down, we got the Boston Celtics and the Heat. Now, this is a rematch of a series that did not go Boston's way most recently. So you would think this is where I'm now going to try and make a point that, Boston is vulnerable, but Jimmy Butler is kind of hurt, and realistically, and this is not, by the way, I need to tell you that if I'm going to say something, I'm going to say my opinions. They are honest opinions. I'm not trying to reverse jinx, underdog, cowboy. I don't really know what that is. Don't Google that. That's probably something weird. But I just got to say what I feel, and that this is Boston's division. I don't think I'm the only one saying it. If you go on like CBS Sports, Yahoo Sports, some of the stuff that don't have really like brave analysis or predictions, legitimately everyone in both of those groups are saying Celtics and Nuggets. So no one's really, we just came from March Madness where we got the finalist and the winner that we thought we were going to get in both the men's and the women's. I guess they assume it's going to be the same thing in the NBA. And while the West, I get it, the Nuggets I do think are the best team, but Celtics, it really is coming down to the fact that not only have they been the most consistent and best team of the year, I think the East kind of sucks, and that's kind of why Boston has been so good. It's not just that they're good, because when they bumped into some Western teams, they haven't always shown up. I do think they're a great team, but everybody is flawed in the East, pretty much except them. And I would say, I mean, you think I'm jinxing, you know, do I want Tatum to go down? No, I do not. But if Tatum did go down, Boston isn't screwed as hard as the rest of the teams when their star is going down. I think, yes, they're best with him, obviously, and they would need him to win the title. But if he missed a few games in this series, or if he missed this series, I still think they would win and get through. I think one of the biggest things that we kind of learned, I mean, number one, Jimmy Butler being hurt, or potentially, I mean, I haven't heard the final in terms of how long or how bad, and can he come back? And I know that's pretty much everybody on the roster here. But Drew Holiday as being a part of that deal that they got, I mean, the fact that they have such a solid defender, ask the Bucks if they would undo that one. They would never say it publicly, but give a few drinks, and I bet you they admit it. When you have some kind of a stopper, and they already have some phenomenal defensive players, it just becomes too tough. I actually don't even see Miami putting up that much of a fight in this one unless something crazy happens. If it was Boston in 4 or Boston in 5, I would not be shocked. While that one came across as super definitive, everything else in the East is not going to be. Congrats, I suppose, to the Knicks, who was the only team that seemed to care in the last weekend in the East, and they came out and pumped, and they earned their number 2 seed only to then get the 76ers. Doesn't seem fair, right? Kind of seems like, you know, the Cavs knew what they were doing when they were probably tanking to try and get the 3 or the 4. Now, fortunately for them, and unfortunately for someone like Chainer, Embiid isn't exactly 100% strength. Now, we've seen him on the floor. He looks all right at times. Still a little ginger, and you know, whether he's 70%, 80%, you know, whatever percentage you want to put into that, obviously their success is going to go with him. When he's in the series, they can make a difference, because obviously we know Randall's out for the rest of the year. We also know, like, Brunson isn't exactly full of health right now. You know, Nick Nurse does have, I mean, for all the Raptors crew, and I know you know that more than half this pool is Canadian, so we're more than well aware of some of the defensive kind of schemes that Nurse is known for throwing out there, and he does have a very, you know, malleable lineup and has been without Embiid for a bit. So if Embiid's back and they're playing on full strength, and then just chalk this up to the Knicks' bad luck that they get a really tough first-round matchup. If Embiid is not there, and I don't think he's 100%, I do think the Knicks kind of ride through. I can see them putting up a bit more of a fight, but I think this gets old school. I think by that I mean harder fouling, and since the NBA is letting that go, that benefits Embiid when he's 100%. If he's not at least 75, I don't think it benefits him, because they can smack him around a bit more, and I don't know if he takes the wear and tear of the whole series. I would say Knicks in 6 if I had to bet it, but neither would it really. If it gets to 7, I mean, obviously it's anyone's series, but it could go either way, and I'm kind of cheering for an upset maybe, but still got to go with my heart on that one. 3 Milwaukee and 6 Indiana is literally the matchup I think most people kind of wanted out of this. This is why the in-season tournament was so great, because we already saw this rivalry. Then Giannis has the 60 game, and then they steal his ball. Like, the drama in this one is fantastic. The bummer of this is obviously the fact that we don't really know if or how much Giannis is going to play in this series, or even if he's there again. What kind of Giannis do you see? I've heard this injury be related to Kevin Durant's from a few years ago, not the Achilles, but the calf strain that took him about 3 to 4 weeks fully, maybe even 5 weeks to come back and actually be at more full strength. Now, Giannis was a bit younger when that happened to Durant, and he's tough. We know that. But he's also got kind of a good balance on life. Like, even when they lost last year, it wasn't like he was devastated. He's like, losing's a part of it. Doesn't mean we're a failure, which is a very healthy approach. But I don't know if that means he's going to have the dog in him to get back and try and go early, or even if he should. Now, on the flip side, Halliburton did come back early, and they've pretty much admitted that now, because he wanted his bonus in the contract. It might cost him a spot. I mean, if you look at the first half of the season, he was definitely going to be in one of the first 3 teams All-NBA. Now he hasn't really been playing great since like January, February. He did get dinged up, and since he's come back, I think it was too early. But Indy has a flying offense, so this could be a high score if it really goes the way it should, which suits someone like Dame Time. Although We're gonna see. I mean, he wanted to be treated as a premier player, as a top tier, like the one of the top 15 in the league when he got the trade and everything was going down. He hasn't played like that all year, and even at his best, he's looked okay and a little bit like Dame, but he hasn't been able to do it consistently. If the series falls on him, I don't like this for Milwaukee. If Giannis can come back and they can spread the love a little bit, they are getting a bit older, but they do have some championship pedigree left in there. So this could be one of the few series I do see potentially going to 7. I would like, just for my own personal well-being, to say that Indiana could get by it. And if I was betting, I'd look at the odds. So I do think Milwaukee probably gets it, but I think this one goes to 7. If that's the case, if Indy can fly, who knows? Maybe we got our upset. Careful what you ask for, Cleveland, because you got it, and now you're going to be on their bulletin. Obviously, it became very clear in the last game. Cleveland pulled all their starters. They wanted to fall down. They wanted Orlando Magic as their rival here. They wanted them to see them in the first round. Now, on the negative side, whoever gets this gets Boston next. I don't think they reseed. I'll double check that, but I think I just checked it. So that's a little bit tougher in the second round, but if you're a team like Orlando or Cleveland, you're happy to get to that second round and then see what happens. Now, this one could be a little bit tougher if you haven't seen these teams play. Orlando's offense is kind of sketchy. It's pretty much Paolo and then who hits it hot, and when they hit their offense, they're fine, like in any NBA team. But when they have their offensive stagnant, it's not great, but their defense is phenomenal. I think Suggs, and even, you look at Isaacs, who doesn't play all the time, but might in this series. Solid defenders, probably going to be on first or second team All NBA for defense. This could be a first to 91 kind of thing. Each game, whoever comes out of the gate and can score might win. And I got to think, Cleveland, you've been playing like crap. You got someone on your team who's looking to probably leave next year. All the writing's on the wall. I don't think this gets to 7. I think Orlando takes this in 6 if I'm betting. Now on to our West, where it's a little bit different. The top 3 obviously was fighting it out, and then we kind of knew most of the other seeds. I think the only interesting one was the 7 through 10, the Lakers jumping up, so they only had to play 1 game and not 2. And I actually think that kind of hurts them, but I'll get to that in a second. With our opening matchup, we got the Pelicans just made it through over the Kings, who looked like a third of the team that they were a bit ago. I think that Malik Monk injury really did hurt them. Pelicans, speaking of injuries, how much Zion is going to be part of this? Really funny. Zion looked horrible against the Lakers the week before, at the end of the season, and then had a great game in that 7-8 game until he got hurt. I'm just kind of wondering if this is Zion, though. I mean, he showed up out of shape, and sometimes when you do, you play yourself into shape, but you are more susceptible to some of those injuries because you're not taking care of yourself. Is this like the Zion that we just get, that when we see them, we're like, wow, he could do so many amazing things, but then he gets hurt, or then he doesn't take care of himself, or then there's a blah, blah, blah. Kind of depressing if you saw him in Duke and you thought, man, this dude is going to rule in the NBA, and he's shown windows and his ceiling is certainly high still, but his floor sucks. I think the Pelicans are limping into this one, and I think OKC is happy to see them. SGA's got everything behind him. If you look at a lot of reporters, he seems to be a darling to potentially be, or to be, a first-team All-NBA. He's actually getting some MVP votes. I don't think he gets there, but he's bet you finishes top 3 in MVP voting, or top 4 at the worst. He's got a kind of star-making performance in the FIBA World Cup. He kind of came through there. So he's got all of these buildups as a young player, but obviously playoff pedigree's not one yet. So to get a series in that is very winnable, I think it's actually really nice for him and nice for the Thunder. I think it maybe helps mask some of their issues when someone like Josh Giddey, who hasn't really shot from the outside, they can't really exploit it because they really do need his on-ball kind of creation. I think this is actually the series that the Thunder want, and I don't see this being super close. I think it's them in 5. The reason I keep mentioning the Thunder wanting to play the Pelicans is because I kind of thought, with my tinfoil hat on, I'm like, man, if I'm the Lakers, maybe I don't want to win this 7-8 game. Maybe I actually want to play in the 8, because I do actually think the Lakers have been playing fantastic ball recently. If you haven't watched it, obviously they've had a season with 2 players that are premier players that look like they're going to be second and third team All NBA, if you believe some of the hype. Their role players are getting a lot better. Weird, right? Maybe LeBron, don't be so quick to talk about how your son could play for your team and that you could trade anybody at all time. As soon as all the trade talk stopped, players like D'Lo got a little bit more like gelled and actually played better. And the last like month or so, they've definitely been playing, I think, their best. And I think if the Lakers bump into the Thunder, I don't think the Thunder can handle Lakers' physicality inside. I think they give them all kinds of troubles, and I actually think it's a super close series, but I would have picked the Lakers coming out in that one in a massive upset, even though I know it's 1 versus 8. However, they didn't. They won the game. And now they're playing Denver. And I don't think the Lakers can beat Denver. I think it's a very matchup-based thing. Now, obviously, if someone like Jokic goes down or Murray goes down, then that's a different thing. But we were assuming the best here. I'd say the only kind of fuzzy bit is, Michael Porter Jr. is actually quite important to their structure, their offense and defense. And to have his brother get banned for life, I don't know if that's something that's just fishing in the back of his head. Certainly, he should hope he doesn't make any or miss a bunch of free throws and then suddenly have to lead the game, because that obviously doesn't look great. But let's be honest, I just don't think the Lakers have the power here. Yeah, they have, their high end is there. I can't see it over a series. If you remember last year, I think it was a sweep, but each game was actually super close. I could see that again. I can see the Lakers squeaking out 1, maybe 2 games, but I got Denver in 5 or 6 here, which sucks. Lakers, you could have made a run, but wrong opponent, wrong time. I know, right? Super gutsy. My first 2 predictions. I take the 1 and the 2 to win it. Crazy. Not trying to fall in love with seeds. I'm just trying to call it like I see it here. If we're going to have an upset, obviously, I think this is the one. It's talked about so much, I don't even know how much of an upset it is. I still do kind of like Minnesota over Phoenix, but Phoenix has been giving Minnesota tons of troubles. You got obviously Minnesota's going to have a strong kind of post presence. They're a physical team. You got Ant-Man, who's looking to be the face of the league, and so don't be shocked if he takes this as a personal challenge. The reason why I still would probably lean Minnesota is actually just because I don't believe in Phoenix. I think that they've shown signs of it. I think they're going to put up more of like a fight, but they don't really necessarily have the history of having that fight in them, and all of their players are kind of checkered with that for a bit. The other thing that doesn't actually factor in, but sometimes when you talk about like sports opinions and whatnot, we factor things in that maybe isn't actually there, but Phoenix kind of needs this one a lot more. If Minnesota lost, it would suck because they could have had a number 1 seed and they were a top seed for most of the year. So to lose in the first round stinks, but to lose with a younger team, Cat's been hurt, so they do have some issue. They have some excuses. As long as they put up a fight and don't bail completely, it wouldn't be obviously good, but it wouldn't be like bottom of the barrel. Phoenix, I don't know what they do if they lose this. Their owner is legit crazy. I don't know if you've actually heard more about him and his mortgage Ponzi schemes and things like that. That actually made him his money. You can go on YouTube spirals with him with some of the messages he's been recorded saying and just some of the crazy crap he's come up with. He clearly saw The Big Short and thought, yeah, I could actually screw people over. That's pretty good. He's just going to spend all the money he can, and obviously that's why he made the Durant deal. But with the players they have and the cap space and some of the potential picks and everything, if they lose in the first round, I don't really know what they do next year. And I guess they just run it back. But so they do kind of need this one a little bit more. I could see this being another one that might go to 7 or just have those like tight games to 6. But I do kind of see Minnesota squeaking this one out, but if I have to pick an upset in the West, obviously the Suns is it. Now, I say the upset because 4-5, I don't include that in upset, but I guess technically it would be if Dallas went over the Clippers here. This is like destiny in a series, because if you take the 2 teams that I legitimately have no clue what they're going to do and you throw them in a series, this is it, right? Kawhi, is he fully healthy? Can he play a full series? What's his knee actually like? You never really know with him. Now, they were kind of the darlings of January, February. Suddenly they started playing really well. Their defense started picking up. Harden was meshing. They were running on full cylinders, and they looked phenomenal. Paul George looked like he was definitely like a second team or even possibly a first team All-NBA. Same with Kawhi. They were running it. Their defense, again, stepped up. And then the last 2 months, they kind of didn't play great again. And now the media darlings of the last 2 months have been Dallas. They started learning how to play defense. I think the Luka and Kyrie started meshing a little bit better. And I think they just they hammered home maybe their more the rotation strategy, and they just became a more consistent threat, and they became a little bit better at the rim protectors. That's the people outside of the big two. Being a bit better of a defense. Now, does that carry over? I'm not really sure. This one, like, of all the series, I would only bet this one if I legitimately had to. Like, if we made a pact that we have to bet on every single series, that's the only reason I'd put anything on this. I honestly have no idea where this is going to go. All I'm really hoping for is 7 games of just craziness, buzzer beaters, nuts scenarios. I do actually think, though, Dallas comes through. But if the Clippers swept them in 4, would I be shocked? Absolutely not. No clue what's going to happen here. As we can see, I've completely updated everything that I can update. So just to look at our teams that didn't quite make it. Now, had I done this before the play-in games, I could have bragged and say, Rennie and I have 5 teams still cooking. But I didn't want to, even if I could have, because I knew I would go down. I was hoping maybe something would happen that would squeak a little different. No, I lost 3 of my 5, so I'm not looking so great. Now, I'm going to kind of go team by team here just to kind of see where we're at, and I'll do it in an order that I think makes sense. For me, I'm kind of screwed. I think the Lakers, like I said, maybe could have upset the Suns or the Thunder. I don't see them getting by. I think they're going to be a next round. I think the Pacers are my only shot to go another round. And then who knows? They could maybe make it to the Eastern Conference Finals, so I could have one kicking. I could also be out as of next round. Now, I did benefit because I did so well in the in-season tournament. So I'm looking at a minimum, though, of 14 points, which sounds great when you look at the rest of your guys' points. But trust me, there's a few of you that are going to get up and pass me real quick. I think the maybe the Hart Award here, the one that we actually can't really blame that much, but we feel for. Poor Chainer, you have just been riddled with injuries. We'll get to that more when I look at your players, because obviously we know you lost Embiid. But then you got the Bucks, who were legitimately, when they were up flying, and they still could be, I guess, probably the most legitimate threat to the Celtics. And then Giannis gets hurt. You got Embiid, who, again, if he's healthy, that could be another team that challenges. So maybe they come back, they're healthy, they go another round or two, and you get some more points. You also could be facing the same thing that I'm facing and have no teams left. Now, on the plus side for us, we do play each other here, so only one of us would lose all of them. But I don't think we're so great. Horst, you're in a kind of similar spot. You really do need your Knicks to come through. Now, them getting that 2 seed are going to be massive. That means they do avoid Boston until the very end, and they could very well be against Boston in the Eastern Conference Finals, and then who knows what happens. Like I said, I think the Suns are probably even money with Minnesota here. So if there's going to be an upset, that's them. The Pelicans, that would take a lot more. So you're probably hoping for a couple more rounds here and a few more points. The thing that both of you have in common, man, that sucks. Just looking quick, if you didn't, Detroit was coming all the way back, buddy, but they fell by 1 game. Same here, only different. The Spurs decided, Wemby decided, screw you, league, I'm going to try and win it all. And then they passed Portland, so unfortunately that means both Chainer and Horst, you lost a couple points there. That does ding you because you were obviously much more on the positive beforehand. Shea, you were looking pretty good. I think the King is bowing out. I think you were hoping to keep that one. But the thing you definitely have going for you is you have 3 of probably the top 4. If you want Dallas, then definitely top 5 teams in there. I think Denver, and I think I told you, I think the Thunder look good. I think the Clippers are your only one that are really in threat here. So you're looking at teams that could go through, and then the Nuggets, obviously a team that could take it all. So remember, that's 10 points for the championship. So when I said before, me getting to 14 won't seem so great, it could, because you could pile on some serious points here. I do think right now, though, the most likely candidate to win our team section of the pool, Rennie, yours is looking great. The only team that you aren't going to get points from is obviously your Hornets. You've already gotten some points because I did add, remember, if you get the number 1 seed overall in your conference here, you get the extra point. So that's why the Thunder have 1, even though they didn't get a conference tournament. Boston, they already had 1 from before, but they got an extra one. Now, I don't love your Cavs here, but I could see the rest of your teams kind of taking off. And the one beautiful thing about the Cavs is you got the Magic, so you are guaranteed at least 1 second round. I would be shocked and appalled if Boston goes down. You know my feelings on Dallas and Minnesota. They could pop down, but I think you got the East locked up, and I think for you, you're just hoping that Dallas and Minnesota can keep fighting through. They don't play each other until the Western Conference Final, so it's actually conceivable that you could have a situation where, I mean, you're pretty much guaranteed to have one of the Eastern Conference finalists, but you could be getting some top end points here. So congrats on that one. If we look at our player points, the only other thing I'm going to throw up just quickly, if you weren't aware, so these are obviously we don't do all of these. The only thing that's a little bit of a surprise. De'Aaron Fox, congratulations, my boy, because SGA had this locked up, and we've gone with ties before. Ties mean they technically are the lead. I checked in NBA standings. They are both considered the leader for steals, so congrats to people who got the points there. So looking at our player points, I have updated as much as I can already. Rennie coming on strong. Luka winning the last 2 months, and then the league leader in score. So that's his 5 points. Sabonis having the rebound lead. I would also go ahead and say, well, actually, let me just do this as a little bit of I'll do each team. Horst, I'll take a look at you. Well, no, take a look at me first. My top 4 are the only people that are going to get me points. Now, as of right now, the one thing I got going for me, I'm pretty sure I'm going to be out of points and just hoping that other people don't score a lot. And I think that's my best bet to try and win this pool. I think I got Wemby as Rookie of the Year. There's some buzz for him Defensive Player of the Year. I don't think he gets it, but I think he gets in an all-defensive team at least. Halliburton was looking like an all-team, probably third team All-NBA, but that's not looking great now. But SGA and Giannis on most people's ballots that I'm reading are first team, so that's where I sit. Horst, I'll take you next quick. I do think you'll go as far as Jokic can take you. He could get the MVP. I think LeBron James, Durant, possibly Murray, but definitely James and Durant are looking at all NBA honors, probably maybe all defensive for Bam. That's where I see your points kind of rolling down. Chainer, we mentioned this before. You are just on freaking lucky, dude, with Embiid because he was looking like an MVP candidate or certainly a first teamer. Tatum will be interesting because he is, in some ballots I've heard of, he's getting the 5th spot. There seems to be 4 guaranteed for all NBA first team. Tatum is the potential 5th. If not, he definitely gets at least on there. Fox obviously got you some points. Maybe he'll fish around for some other ones. I think Jaylen Brown is someone else who is likely to get an all NBA, maybe second or third team. I think Maxey for a most improved could be up there. I think Gobert, Defensive Player of the Year. If Wemby doesn't get it, we know Gobert will. So even if he doesn't, all defensive. So you're going to get a few more points here and be a bit more of a fighter than you think, even though you lost your top guy early on, or not early on, but a little while back. Shea, I think you're just going to be scrapping for as many as you can here because I think your teams are going to do quite well. I don't know if Harden ends up paying off for you in any way, shape, or form. We'll see if that kind of happens. Curry is still up there for All-NBA, same with Ant-Man. Mobley, I'm not so sure. Maybe some defensive love. Booker is on the list there as a candidate for All-NBA, so I think you're definitely looking at some potential people here. Of course, I'm not even going to try and guess clutch and hustle and citizenship or social justice. That'll just be kind of a shot in the dark. Although I think social justice Drew Holiday's got in the last couple of years. I'll see if he can keep that streak going. Obviously here I got to finish with Rennie because number 1, I think you win the pickup award. I think Brunson looks like he's getting all NBA talks. He's actually getting, low key because it's New York MVP talks. He won't get there, but he could be a top 5 or top 6 candidate, which means the all NBA is likely. You already had Sabonis, and so he could get there for all NBA or all defensive NBA. Kawhi is getting buzz for first, second, or third team. Obviously, Luka's could be MVP and definitely a first teamer. Anthony Davis is getting some love for second or third team. Jimmy Butler, you're never really sure. I don't know with health and stuff if he's really had the season, but all things considered, we got a ton more awards to give out. As soon as they go, I will update them, but I'll try and do the video updates after each playoff round. So I'll try and update each playoff round. See what kind of points fell. So we got a little bit until they start naming the awards, but I think it's certainly going to be going to come down to the wire and definitely kind of going to come down to the team. So we'll see how we do, folks. I fully get you all know me enough to know when I say I'm just trying to be quick, keep this quick, and then I go on forever. I am trying to keep this video a little bit smaller, but I know this is going to be long. So even though I don't know the total length at this point, I guarantee we had playoff stuff to talk about. I had tons of stuff to talk about in the pool. This is going to be a longer video, so I'll keep this part as short as I can. So just one little piece for my 2 cents here. A couple weeks ago, or about a couple months ago now, I did share how I'd fix the All-Star game. We still have tanking at the end of the year. This idea of the last couple of days would have been great if like everyone was going for it and everyone was playing as best they could, and certainly then you'd get more equity coming into the playoffs as opposed to some teams who've been resting a little bit more because they didn't care if they dropped down. I actually would try and fix that. You can't ever fix that fully, but I would fix it by allowing the first 4 seeds to pick. So if you finish 1 through 4, you don't just get assigned the 5 through 8, you pick them. So if you're the number 1 seed, now in this particular case, I actually don't know if it changes much. I think if Oklahoma City, they get the 1, they would choose the Pelicans. This would be the interesting one though, right? Because then Denver would get to pick. Do they want Dallas? Do they want the Lakers? Or do they want Phoenix? They probably pick the Lakers, but I don't know for sure. So we might get the idea that it's beneficial to get that. And then obviously if you're the 4 seed, you get whoever's left and the team that they didn't want. The East is much more interesting. I do think Boston would probably pick Miami of the options. But New York, did they take Orlando? Did they take the 76ers? I actually don't know that they do. Did they take Indy? You can make it on your matchups. I think Indy and the Knicks have played quite tight. The Knicks probably have more confidence. Maybe they pick Indy, or maybe they pick Orlando because that's more their speed. They don't have to score as much because they know that Orlando's not going to score as much. Anyway, I don't know if this solves the world's problems, but I like the idea of giving more value to finishing higher. I like the idea of playing for the home court, but also playing for your opponent. And I kind of like the fodder of the fact that, if you're the number 2 seed and you pick someone, that team suddenly is going to have a chip on their shoulder. Same with 3, because when the 3 picks it and they get selected, they're like, well, you had another choice. You chose us. And then it's kind of the reverse on the 4-5. If you're that 5 seed who just gets assigned to the 4, you're like, nobody wanted us. I don't know. I know that's not supposed to matter, but we know professional sports enough to know that it does. So a way to kind of make it a little spicier at the end, I'd be all for it. Like I said several times, we knew this one would be longer. It's been a little while and tons of narratives to talk about. Plus, now it's the postseason. Now we have a good idea where we are with our pool. Obviously, each video should be a little bit shorter because we'll just be covering the series going through, but I'll try and make them after each round. Enjoy, watch as much as you can. I'm super excited for these first round series. Like I said, I think each one is kind of the matchup we wanted. Will it end up like March Madness and the favorites, we get 2 number 1 seeds going through at the end? Or something a little spicier? Only time will tell. Best of luck, everyone.